de yogis, community of yogis and yoginis. Jai. Haribol, Ananda, Haribol, Laura, Amrita.
Haribo,
Bueno,
todos.
we're going to read Chapter 2, Text 13, Contents of the Gita Summarized. Capítulo 2, Texto 13, el resumen del Bhagavad Gita. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Can you believe I chose that for this moment? ¿En español? Es 13 de capítulo 2. ¿Sí?
Así como en este cuerpo el alma encarnada pasa continuamente de la niñez a la juventud y luego a la vejez, de la misma manera el alma pasa a otro cuerpo en el momento de la muerte. A la persona sensata no la confunde ese cambio.
Okay, so this verse is a really powerful verse because it's talking about death, which is a really hard subject to talk about. Ese verso es un verso muy importante, pero un verso un poquito difícil, porque estamos hablando de la muerte. Pues realmente el alma nunca se muere, ¿no? Pero cuando dejamos este cuerpo en este mundo material, pues parece como una muerte, ¿no? Y como estamos tan apegados a esta realidad, a este cuerpo, nos sorprende o nos da miedo esta idea. So even though the soul never dies, right? So we say it's a death, but it's actually not a death. It's just a transition. Es como una transición. But even though we know this is going to happen here, we're always in shock that it's happening, or most of the time we're in shock that it's happening, right? En general, estamos aquí y estamos como sorprendidos en mucho duelo cuando un ser querido se va de nuestra vida. Haribo, Madre Satya, Sundari.
People,
So this verse is really important to even study constantly until we get this idea, like until it just becomes a part of us. And then when these hard moments happen, we won't be hit so hard, or we won't be, he put the word bewildered, right? It's just like, what? You know, and which is interesting because this is like the only thing that's for certain here in this world, right? And we're still bewildered. I like that he put bewildered, right? Entonces, esa es la única cosa cierta que va a pasar aquí en este mundo material, pero todavía estamos, ¿qué es la palabra que usó Srila Prabhupada? Bewildered, como confundido, sorprendido en español.
Que no la confunde ese cambio.
Como nos confunde, ¿no? And we'll also suffer from just change in our lives as well, like the loss of an identity, right? Or we're not working anymore. It's like, now who am I? Who am I, right? Entonces también sufrimos de los cambios de nuestra identidad. But Krishna is saying here that a sober person, I'm seeing what he's saying, Dhira. Ah, that's interesting. Dhira is a person that has the light. It's not just sober person. Dhira is the light, right? Like the candle flame. Entonces, Dhira es la luz. Entonces dice aquí Srila Prabhupada, la persona con la luz, que tiene su claridad, su visión abierta, esta persona no va a estar confundida. This person who's sober will not be bewildered. So right now we have two things happening today here in the Bhakti Yoga Ashram. We have the birthday of Siamakanti, so she's 8 years old. Tenemos dos cosas pasando hoy. Tenemos el cumpleaños de Siamakanti, está cumpliendo 8. And then also Julia, one of our students here, her cousin just passed away last night. Entonces también tenemos la despedida del primo de Julia, que dejó su cuerpo anoche. So I just saw Julia and she's just crying and I'm giving her a hug and she just went to her room. Entonces como acabamos de ver, Julia le abracé y ella se fue a su habitación, right? But what are we going to do if we just go to our room? ¿Qué vamos a hacer si solamente vamos a nuestra habitación? Orar, right? Yeah, like pray, orar, but most of the time we're just going to cry. La mayoría del tiempo simplemente vamos a llorar, ¿no? Because we're in so much suffering, we're in so much loss, right? Porque entramos en el duelo. But ultimately, what we should do is grab a hold of whatever spiritual path that you're in and pray, chant, and we can even pray for their soul, right? We don't pray for their body, we pray for their soul. Entonces, lo que podemos hacer es orar por su cuerpo, no su cuerpo, orar por su alma, no su cuerpo. Así aferrarte a tu camino espiritual, como nosotros cantamos Hare Krishna, hasta podemos cantar Hare Krishna para el alma, como ya varias aquí hemos hablado en situaciones de enfermedades o de despedidas. So we have a few friends here that we've been together in moments as well of loss and of sickness, right? Y siempre es lo que recomiendan los maestros. That's what they recommend the teachers to chant for that soul that has left their body, or if you can get them before they leave their body, chant the Mahamantra as well. So giving their soul an opportunity to transcend and have a really auspicious next birth. Entonces, cantándole el yapa, el Mahamantra, le das a este alma la oportunidad de trascender un plano superior o renacer en un nacimiento más auspicioso. But we don't see death as something so serious if you can just see that the soul isn't dying, right? A lot of times we grieve because we're attached to our relationship with them. We're attached to how we feel. We're also just attached to people being not dying. Like we like people who are in our sphere to stay with us. So there's just like, it's a like, right? It's a taste. It's like, well, this is my reality. I don't want anybody to leave my reality, because then it gets us to question, then what is this if the people close to me are leaving, right? It gets us to ask deeper questions. Entonces, cuando se va una persona de nuestra realidad, realmente nos invita, pues primero tenemos mucho apego a ellos, mucho apego a nuestro círculo de amistades, de familiares. Entonces es una shock porque esa es mi realidad y ahora Krishna, Dios está diciendo, esa realidad ya no es una realidad, ya la realidad se ha cambiado. So Krishna is saying, oh, your reality has changed, right? And we're like, no, 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 no. We like everything to stay the same. Y entonces aquí nos gusta que las cosas se quedan iguales para siempre. No nos gusta el cambio. No, bueno, solamente nos gusta el buen cambio, el cambio para el mejor, pero no nos gusta los cambios que no sea para lo mejor, que podemos ir a tener la perspectiva que esa es como, ese fuera de mi centro de mi zona de confort, ahora qué puede pasar, ¿no? So we only like the changes that are positive changes. But if it's something that's out of our comfort zone, we're like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, I don't even know what to do if that person's not in my reality. I don't know what to do with my identity if I don't have that career anymore, right? Like the comfort zone is comfortable. Out of the comfort zone is uncomfortable. Entonces, no sé qué va a pasar si esta persona ya no está en mi vida físicamente ni o en ese plano material, porque a veces la gente se va de nuestra realidad, pero están aquí en este planeta. So sometimes people go from this reality, but they're still in this earth, but they're just not part of our little small reality that we find comfort in. Ya no están parte de esta realidad pequeña que nos da confort, no este como red más cercana, that network that's like our close network that makes us feel stable, ¿no? Esa red que nos da esta estabilidad. So what Krishna is saying here, and this is the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is when Arjuna's looking at the other side of the battlefield, and it's all, he's going to be fighting against his cousins, his grandfather, his guru. He's fighting against them. They're all on the other team. Their duty is to fight for the kingdom that they live in. Okay, so they're on the other side. So Arjuna's like, I don't want to fight, right? Entonces, ese es un momento crítico cuando Arjuna está mirando. Ese es el comienzo del Bhagavad Gita. Estamos en capítulo 2, ¿no? Entonces Arjuna está mirando el otro lado de la batalla, donde ahí tiene a Bhisma, su abuela, Drona, su maestro y todos sus primos. Y está diciendo, no, yo no quiero luchar. Y ellos están del otro lado, solamente porque vivieron en ese reino y era su deber proteger el reino, ¿no? No es ni es por ganas, pero es su deber luchar. ¿Ya? En ese lado. Entonces Arjuna dice, no, yo no voy a luchar. Arjuna's there and he's saying, nope, I'm not going to fight, right? And then Krishna starts to talk to him, explain to him, but these people won't die. Imagine that. Imagine going in, not even just like opening up and understanding when people leave your reality, but being like, I'm actually going to kill these people. But don't worry, because they're not going to die. And that's pretty much what Krishna is saying. Entonces, lo que está diciendo a Krishna es que no te preocupes porque todos esos familiares realmente no se vayan a morir, ¿no? Pero imagínate cómo sufrimos cuando alguien salga de nuestro red de confort, de nuestra realidad. Imagínate la idea de matar a esas personas, ¿no? Entonces eso ya pues parece muy violento, pero hay que ponerlo en otro contexto. It might seem really violent, but we put in another context because the warrior class, especially back in the day, that was their duty. Their duty was actually to fight for the highest, ¿no? Entonces hay que entender en esa batalla, la clase de guerreros, ¿no? Las kshatriyas, era su deber luchar y luchar para lo más elevado. No era así entrar en el sentimentalismo. Their duty wasn't to enter into our sentimentalism. Yeah. It was just like, this is duty. Duty is duty. Deber is deber. And Krishna says later on in the Bhagavad Gita that one has to live their duty. It's better for them to live their duty badly, like not to do it well, than to try to live somebody else's duty well. Entonces dice más adelante en el Bhagavad Gita que es mejor hacer tu deber, tu dharma mal hecho, que hacer el deber de otra persona, el dharma de otra persona bien hecho. So all that idea about everybody's like, no, you have to be the doctor, the lawyer, and you're just like, I just want to be the artist or something, right? And it's like better to be a bad, suffering artist than a good doctor. Like to really find what you're here to do. Entonces, el ejemplo siempre de cuando los padres dicen, ay, tú tienes que ser abogado o sea, un médico, y tú dices, no, yo quiero ser artista. Entonces, mejor ser un artista que está ahí que como apenas sobreviviendo que un buen médico si eso realmente naciste para eso. So that's when we enter into our swa dharma. Swa is yours, swa is tú, dharma, your duty. Okay, so we all came in with a specific duty. Todos llegamos aquí con un deber muy específico, right? And it's really important to live that, but we can get really confused because we're like, no, those people are doing that thing. No, those other people are doing the other thing. That would be better, right? So it's really about deep understanding of yourself and really trusting that and developing yourself more in that duty. Like study, really get clear, get better so you can perform that duty better. Entonces nuestro deber es realmente encontrar realmente qué es este deber, ese Swadharma, y refinar, a estudiar para poder vivir este deber lo mejor posible. Okay? So Arjuna was a Kshatriya, Arjuna was a warrior, Arjuna era guerrero. So his duty was to fight. Su deber era luchar. But in this moment, the Bhagavad Gita, he's collapsing. And why does he collapse? Just he's pretending to not know this information. Does this so that Krishna would then speak the whole Bhagavad Gita. But Arjuna was he had studied, he had done so many austerities, his whole life was understanding the Vedas and being surrounded by Brahmins and priests. He grew up in a palace, just like everything, he knew all this information. Okay, so the only reason he's like playing, collapsing, he's like, oh, what do I do? I'm not going to fight, right? Entonces Arjuna sabía todo el Bhagavad Gita, pero está pretendiendo que no sabe nada, ¿no? Y es como está ahí en un teatro de colapsarse y decir, no, Krishna, no voy a luchar. Pero él nació pues en un palacio, está siempre rodeado por brahmanas, por sacerdotes, había todos los lugares sagrados de la India, hasta los planetas de Indra, ¿no? Él era supremamente educado en los Vedas. So he had traveled to all the sacred places in India many times. I mean, always surrounded by priests, always studying. He even went to Indraloka, the planet of Indra. I mean, really high vibe human. His father was actually Indra, so half demigod, half human. Entonces su papá es Indra, ¿no? Entonces es como mitad semidios y mitad ser humano, ¿no? Pero se colapsa, ¿por qué? Para dar este mensaje o para recibir y para que nosotros podamos recibir este mensaje tan importante. So he collapses so that we can hear this information, okay? So it says, the soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, right? Entonces el alma continuamente pasa en este cuerpo desde la niñez a la juventud, a la esencia, a la viejez, ¿no? Vejez. Entonces, eso es como, hasta ahí es difícil recibir o como aceptar esos cambios, no? So even just accepting those changes are hard. Or now that Siama's 8 years old, I'm like, oh, my girl's growing up. So it's like internally us accepting that we're getting older and things are changing, right? And then if you have kids, it's like, what? They're growing up. Entonces, para nosotros sentir esos cambios que ya no somos niños, ya no somos adolescentes, ya no somos, no sé, que son ustedes, pero ya muchos de nosotros ya estamos más arriba. So I'm saying here, like, we don't, each of us here are in different phases in life. So at first you're like, oh, I'm not a child anymore. And oh, no, now I'm not an adolescent. Oh, now I have to get a job and be serious. No, ahora necesito conseguir un trabajo y volverme seria, ¿no? Then you get past your 40s, because we have a few here that are past their 40s. Tenemos un grupo aquí de 40 adelante. So it's like, then you're like, oh my God, and then you get the wrinkles and we just get more wise and beautiful with age, Nos movemos más bonitas y sabias con la edad. But it's still, it's like that, now I'm in that, if you can really just be in it, then you're in your momentary dharma as well. Like, because there are different things to do in each of those phases. Entonces ahí estamos en nuestro dharma específica de cada etapa. So when we're younger, we're more in the brahmachari phase, which is like the study phase. Put all of your energy towards your study and ultimately be taken care of, hopefully, if you have that good karma, right? But ideally. Entonces, idealmente, cuando somos más jóvenes, estamos en la etapa de brahmachari. Entonces, estamos, ojalá, cuidados y podemos enfocar todos nuestros esfuerzos en el estudio, toda nuestra energía en el estudio. Then we enter into like the householder phase, or you can also, some people renounce at that point, but most of us are in the householder phase. So you have a job, you have a responsibility, maybe a project, maybe a family. De ahí pasamos a la etapa de tener casa o tener responsabilidades de trabajar, de pronto tener tu familia. And if you're in that phase, it's important to the grihastra, that's a grihastra phase, as in la fase grihastra. If you're in your phase, you have a duty. Si estás en esa fase, esa etapa, tienes un deber. You have a duty to make money, to take care of whatever your responsibility is. Es tu deber de trabajar, ganar dinero y cuidar cualquier responsabilidad que tengas, right? Then there's some people that will take vanuprastra, which is like a preparation for renunciation. So hay algunos toman vanuprastra, que es una preparación para la renuncia. And that can be, depending on the culture. In India, it's a little bit younger. In our culture, it's usually a little bit later, but anytime from 50 to 65, entonces en cualquier momento entre las 50 y 65. In the India will be more like 50, 55. In the India es como 50, 55. Yeah. And then we move into sannyasi. De ahí se mueve a sannyasi. So sannyasi is renouncing this material world. Sannyasi es como renunciar este mundo material. So yesterday, Chaitanya was talking to me about, he's like, well, I'm almost feeling ready to renounce. And I'm like, but we're just like sitting there. He's like, I'm almost feeling ready to renounce. What will you do when I renounce? And I was like, we're really having lunch and talking about this just like right now. It was like we were just talking about like, I don't know, the weather, right? Entonces estábamos ahí sentados en el almuerzo ayer y Chaitanya empezó a hablar sobre, yo creo que ya pronto, ya me siento casi listo para renunciar, para la renuncia. Y yo como si fuera así hablando del clima, ¿no? Y estaba ahí como, ajá, y me preguntó, ¿qué vas a hacer cuando yo me renuncio? Yo como, ¿quieres mi respuesta en este momento? So I say like, you want my response right now? But then I was like, we have young kids. Your duty is to be here with me and with the kids. Entonces le dije, tenemos hijos chiquitos, tú debes estar conmigo y las niñas, ¿no? Y él como, claro, no va a ser ahora. And he was like, yeah, of course, it's not going to be, what? How old is it?
Renounce is leave the family.
Yeah, I mean, you could be like kind of nearby, but you can't have like responsibilities, It can't be like, oh, go brush the kids' teeth, Entonces, cuando se renuncia, ya es dejar la familia, ¿no? Realmente. Entonces, no puedes decir, ahora limpia los dientes de la niña. Entonces, él como, claro, no, ahora ya en unos años. So he was like, clearly not now, in like a few years. But I was like, got you on that. Like, don't even think about it for the next, Entonces le dije, no, ni puedes pensarlo ahora, porque, but you can still live in a renounced way and be grihastra and be a householder, okay? Because it's the attitude behind it. So uno sí puede ser grihastra, puede estar en esta etapa de tener su familia, sus responsabilidades, pero vivir en una forma renunciada, right? So as my teacher, as Gurudeva Tulananda said, he said, it's like fishing, but not getting wet. Es como pescando, pero no mojándote. Like you're here in this material world, but you don't get trapped in it, right? It's like you're doing the actions, but you're not really, and you can be present, yeah, but you're kind of not believing the story. Yeah, entonces uno puede estar en ese mundo material y estás en el presente, pero es como no te caigas en la ilusión de este mundo material. You don't fall into the illusion of this material world, yeah, because this is all temporal, porque todo eso es temporal, okay? So we can be like, oh, I'm so grateful I have this person, I have this husband, I have this friend, I have this child, yeah, but it's not like my happiness is just dependent on them being in my life. It's different. Entonces uno puede estar supremamente feliz y conectada y presente, como tengo este esposo, tengo este hijo, tengo este familiar, este amigo, pero mi felicidad no previene desde mi relación con esas personas. ¿Por qué? Porque esas relaciones son temporales. If my happiness is based on these relationships, then I'm going to suffer quite a bit when they leave, because they will leave or I will leave. Entonces voy a sufrir en algún momento bastante, sí, si mi felicidad está basada en mi relación con esas personas, porque esas personas se van a ir o yo me voy a ir. Va a haber una separación en algún momento. Okay. So again, speaking to what we were talking about in some class, maybe it was the last Bhagavad Gita, like if you can really hold on to your spiritual connection, right, as the foundation of your happiness, yeah, then everything else just kind of passes by, right? This body, these stages of life, yeah, and we're more of the observer instead of grasping. ¿No? Entonces, si podemos tener este eje central conectado con nuestro camino espiritual, ya no vamos a sufrir tanto, ¿ya? Porque nuestra felicidad va a estar ya en Ananda. Our happiness is here in Ananda, like it's already just there, ya está ahí, ¿ya? Entonces vamos a poder rendirnos y poder ser los observadores de lo que está pasando en la vida en vez de aferrándonos a cada cosa en la vida como si fuera la felicidad eterna. Any questions? Questions? Preguntas?
Y no importa cómo la familia reaccione cuando lo
Buena pregunta. So does it not matter how your family reacts? So ideally, you always try to be an ahimsa. You know, you're always trying to be sweet, loving in your words. Siempre intentas estar en ahimsa, usar palabras positivas, lindas, dulces, right? We're never just like, no, I'm going to renounce. No, I'm going to my yoga teacher training, whatever you say, right? Goes, no, yo voy a renunciar, yo voy a ser mi profesional de yoga, no importa lo que digas, ¿no? You're like, okay, I'm explaining this to you, but I'm not asking for your acceptance or for your, what would be called an acceptance? Your, like, you saying it's okay. What is that called? Acceptance? Your permission. Ajá. Entonces, uno lo diga, pero no estás pidiendo permiso. You are just telling them what's about to happen. Le estás diciendo lo que va a pasar. Because it is our duty to follow our spiritual path more than it is our duty to please our family. It is our duty to follow our spiritual path more than it is our duty to please our family. Es nuestro deber seguir nuestro camino espiritual, más que es nuestro deber de complacer nuestra familia. No tenemos ningún deber de complacer la familia. We don't have any duty to please our family. It's not our duty. That's their karma. This is our karma. Ese es su karma, ese es nuestro karma. If we stay behind and we don't do what our soul calling is, right, then we won't be happy and they won't be happy. Nobody will be happy, right? But ultimately, if you choose your spiritual path, you will start to purify 7 generations of your family. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you can do that close by. Sometimes you have to be far away. It's not about the distance. It's about you choosing the highest. ¿Ya? Entonces, a veces eso se trata de estar cerca de ellos, a veces se trata de estar lejos, ¿no? Pero lo más importante es que tú estás eligiendo lo más elevado constantemente. Porque si tú te quedas donde realmente no es tu deber quedarte, ya tú vas a estar mal y también ellos van a estar mal. Pero si empiezas realmente en un camino espiritual verdadero, empiezas a purificar 7 generaciones de tu familia. Any other questions? Preguntas?
So if you were to renounce, you're saying like a few years, but the kids were still like,
You're still thinking about the kids?
yeah. Like when you choose to become a parent though,
Yeah,
isn't there also
that's your duty. You can't leave kids. And a lot of yogis do. Mhm. Maybe in South America, I don't know in other places, but because it's already hard for the men here to take on that responsibility, it's like so common. Entonces estamos conversando porque ella está como, no, pero él no se puede renunciar porque las niñas. Y dije, no, él sí tiene un deber. Uno sí tiene un deber cuando tiene familia de cuidar su familia. Ya no se puede renunciar. Eso sí es un deber. That's like de familia, but that's like your kids. I'm talking about like your parents or your siblings. Está hablando de tus padres o tus hermanos, ¿no? O primos. Esa familia, claro. Si uno tiene hijos, sí hay que cumplir con los hijos. Pero hasta qué edad, right? But then so yeah, if you have kids, you have to finish your duty, but up to what age, right? Because then a lot of people still keep on holding on. And then then all they're doing is just like taking care of their kids, over taking care of the kids, then being a parent, grandparent, and like they just never get to that state of really just like thinking about their soul's journey and entering into something more spiritual. So that's more common what happens in the West. Not necessarily, there's like the abandonment too early or holding on too long. Entonces hay dos cosas que pasan muchas veces en el occidente. Uno es abandono de tus hijos. Y otro es apegarnos demasiado tiempo a nuestros hijos y no saber cuándo es tiempo para soltarles y realmente encontrar nuestro camino espiritual verdadero. Entonces uno cuida demasiado a sus hijos, después a sus nietos y ya nunca hay tiempo para nada espiritual en esa vida. So even we were talking about this the other day about like women losing themselves in pregnancy. And I'm like, no. You always have to make time for your meditation. So you have that central connection in each moment of your life. Because if you don't develop it as a habit and you say, no, I'll wait until later on to do it when I'm not that busy, the habit won't be established. And we just get older. It's harder for our mind to focus when we get older. Entonces es muy importante, estamos hablando de que durante la maternidad, la importancia de mantener tu cuerpo, tu práctica espiritual, tu meditación. Uno no puede decir, no, ya más adelante en la vida cuando no estoy tan ocupada, voy a meditar más, porque si no lo formas como un hábito desde este momento, no lo vas a poder hacer más adelante. Necesitamos el hábito diario en la vida, porque hasta más adelante en la vida, la mente se distrae más, nos volvemos más bata. Okay. Uy, Laura, another question here.
Sí, Haribol.
Arriba, Laura
Eh,
G.
Siam, pues tú conoces la situación que ahora está pasando con mi abuela. Ella sigue pues en la UCI y yo he estado yendo a cuidarla y siento que con esto que estamos hablando es como que ella de verdad está muy cansada, o sea, sus pulmones están colapsando, su corazón está colapsando y siento que no quiere como irse de este plano, de este mundo, porque siente que tiene que seguir cuidando, por ejemplo, a mis hermanos, que me tiene que seguir cuidando a mí, que tiene que seguir cuidando a sus hijos y ya es como, o sea, descansa y es un poco frustrante y justo todo esto que estamos hablando es como, wow, de verdad va súper alineado con lo que
Mm,
estoy viviendo ahora con mi familia y no sé, yo he ido y le he cantado el Hare Krishna y el Mahamantra, pero siento que no, que ella está muy aferrada, demasiado aferrada. Y es como, bueno, ¿cómo podemos, o bueno, cómo se puede ayudar a esa alma que definitivamente no se quiere ir aún, ¿no? O simplemente también dejar ser, no
yeah.
sé.
Okay, traducirlo y te contesto. ¿Listo? Gracias por tu pregunta. So, just to translate, so her grandmother has been in intensive care for a while now, like even when I was in Colombia and before, so a couple of months. And she had a heart problem. Now she's having trouble breathing. And I mean, she was in a coma for a while. So, but she's, Laura was saying, but her family is so attached to her and her taking care of them. And then, she's attached to also her relationship. So she's like, her whole body is completely exhausted, but she can't let go. So Laura's been there chanting the Maha Mantra and trying to help out, but just asking advice of what to do in that situation. Right? Entonces, cantando el Maha Mantra va a ayudar que su cuerpo sutil tenga una como mejor claridad. Entonces, eso es lindísimo. Hasta puedes cantarlo solita, pensando en ella, pensando en su energía, en su nombre. So, chanting the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna will allow her subtle body to have more clarity. So she'll get more illuminated more quickly. Like she'll be able to have these realizations of the illusion that she's in more quickly. So she can be chanting next to her. She can be chanting in her house, thinking of her. So just by chanting, it's kind of like distance Reiki. Es como Reiki a la distancia. ¿No? Y funciona, and it helps. No? Ultimately, though, we can't stress ourselves out about just other people's karma, right? And other ways, people's just like attachments. Al final también tampoco podemos estresarnos de los apegos karmáticos de otras personas. Pero si puedes hablar lo más que puedes con ella, no te preocupes, ¿no? Como vamos a estar bien, ¿no? Ya estamos bien, te puedes ir, cosas así, ayuda, pero Así toma tu tiempo, ¿no? Así como respetando su tiempo. So you can always say, take your time, but I just want you to know that we will be okay. Like really just verbalizing it, you know? So when you're ready, you can leave. Cuando estás lista, puedes salir. And then speak to all the family members as well. También hablar con los otros miembros de la familia y que ellos también lleguen a un punto, si pueden, y puede ser que no. Puede ser que no. So you can speak to every family member and say, you know, it's time for you to say goodbye to this person. But not everybody's going to be able to do that, and that's fine too. No, entonces que ya es tiempo para despedirte. No, ya está cansada. She's already tired. She's suffering a lot. So have them like verbalize it, tener que ellos lo verbalizan, que no una reunión familiar para hablar de temas si sientes que tú lo puedes mediar, like if she feels like she can be the mediator of that as well. ¿No? Y si no funciona, no te sientes culpable, no sientes que algo está pasando afuera de lo que debe estar pasando, porque ese es ya el ritmo de su vida. Y esos son sus apegos karmáticos. So what you can do, you do. What you can't, you just surrender it. You just surrender it. You can also pray that she doesn't suffer that much. También puedes orar que no sufra mucho. Any other questions? ¿Más preguntas?
Un consejo como que se le puede dar hacia las familias que están como muy apegadas al sufrimiento material, hacia las preocupaciones del dinero, todo esto. Conocen mucho sobre lo que le da.
Sí. So what advice to give to your family if they're really caught up in their material attachments and suffering because of that, suffering for money, suffering for other things? Bueno, si están abiertos a escuchar, prediques. Pero la mayoría no están listos, ¿no? So if they're open to listening, then you can just preach. You can just preach these messages, right? But most of them won't be open, ¿no? Pues siendo un modelo, como es muy en tu actitud, en tus conversaciones, ¿no? So being a model in your attitude, in your conversations, you're not complaining about money. No te estás quejando de dinero, right? You're not complaining about anything really. No te estás quejando de nada. A lot of times I get into a certain situations and I'm like, why am I complaining? Because the energy is so much of complaining. That's hard. You're just like, you fall into, I'm like, shoot, no, I have to be the one that does it, that's doing it differently. Entonces, muchas veces hasta a mí me pasa que estoy no sé, una situación y termino yo quejándome. Y yo como, ¿qué te pasó? Porque la energía era tan de quejarse que me caí en eso, ¿no? Entonces uno tiene que estar súper presente de cada palabra que salga de mi boca, cada mensaje que escribo, cada foto que pongo en las redes o así públicas o a la familia. So every message I write, really conscious. Every word that comes out of my mouth, really conscious. Every picture I put on Instagram or whatever, it's like, what is the message I'm conveying? ¿Qué es el mensaje que yo estoy compartiendo? So we become an island of consciousness, right? Nosotros nos volvemos islas de la conciencia. It's so important, it's muy importante. But what happens is karmatically, by you changing, you are going to affect your whole family as well. So it's like you raise the frequency and you'll pull everybody with you. And that happens also in your astrology. For the astrologer lovers. Entonces, cada vez que tú vayas evolucionando, jalas toda su familia contigo. Y se ve eso también en la astrología. Por ejemplo, tu sol es tu papá, ¿no? Es tu autoestima, es tu alma. Entonces, cuando el alma se ilumina más, ya tu papá viene contigo. Imagínate, lo mismo con la luna y la mamá. Ahí están los primos, ahí están los hermanos, todo está en la carta. Ajá. Entonces, cuando tú vayas purificando tus planetas, que realmente son tus energías sutiles, ya estás jalando toda la familia contigo. So the example I'm saying is the sun is your father. It's also your soul, the sun planet. So the moon is your mom. So just by you, so the soul is the soul. The sun is your soul. So the more you illuminate your soul and get just like more clear and aligned with your soul purpose, you'll bring your father, if your father's deceased, like you bring his soul actually with you towards more evolution. Same with the mom, which the mom is the mind and the emotions, the moon. So you start to get your mind more calm, your emotions more calm, you're going to bring your mom with you. And then you can see cousins, you can see brothers, sisters, it's all there. So everything we're evolving and transforming, we bring our family with us. Entonces, eso se ve, sí, cada cosa que transformemos, la mamá es la mente y las emociones y la luna. Entonces, empezamos a tener la mente más calma, las emociones más calmadas, ya estás ayudando a tu mamá también. Y eso se ve en toda la familia. Very good. Okay. Prasham ki jai, breakfast. Gracias. Thank you, everybody. Haribol. So nice to see everyone. Qué bonito verlas.